We're Bill and DeAnna, full-time RVers, and we just got back from a trip across Canada into Alaska this summer, and we're going to take a few minutes here and share our thoughts and impressions on our trip.
But before we do, we just want to remind you that we would sure love to have you join our Nomad family. So if you'll just hit that little red subscribe button down there and the little bell to be notified, you won't miss an episode that comes out every Sunday when we release a new video.
So our trip, we started in upstate New York and left there June 27th, crossed over Niagara Falls into Canada. Then we went across Ontario and all the way through Alberta and stuff and hit the Alaskan Highway, and then took off and across the Yukon into Alaska, spent about 5 weeks there, came back through British Columbia, down into the United States at Washington, crossed the top of the U.S., back to upstate New York, and got there on October 10th. We traveled a total of 14,457 miles and burned about 1,170 gallons of diesel.
So basically it became our Recon Mission of Alaska, because there are so many places we didn't get to go to and we wanted to, and so many places that we would have liked to have spent more time.
Okay, so one of the other things we wanted to talk about was the condition of the road. The Alaska Highway is paved end to end, and it's really in pretty good shape. The one thing we did find is, parts of it were being repaired or under construction from the road frost heave, but that was very doable, but very dusty when we went through those areas.
It was.
But if they weren't working on them and they had found the frost heave, they had marked them with flags in Canada and cones in Alaska. So if you were paying attention and not traveling too fast, you could slow down for those and not have to worry about it.
It's true.
The one roads we did get on that were a little rougher was the Dalton Highway, which takes you to the Arctic Circle, and that has gravel and hard packed gravel and pavement with potholes, and it was under construction. So it was kind of muddy and dirty, and so that was a little different. You got to be careful on. The other place was we went over the top of the World Highway and the Taylor Highway when we crossed from the Yukon into Alaska, and that is gravel in sections and some washboard and things, but very doable. You just have to pay attention, go slow in some areas. We didn't take an extra spare tire, just the one that came with the truck and the one that's on our trailer, and we never had a flat, and we never had a stone chip in the windshield.
Another issue that comes up in Alaska quite a bit is forest fires. So if you're going somewhere and you think you're going to get this awesome view, check to see where forest fires are. So we took the top of the World Highway and there were fires, and so there was these amazing views that were possible out there, but we didn't get to see them because of the fire haze. So I think it would have been a lot prettier. We were staying at Quartz Creek, and there was a huge fire that was over on Cooper Landing, near Cooper Landing in the Kenai Peninsula, and the fire kept us from being able to go in and out for a while. But then also when we got ready to leave, the views were obscured for like almost 100 miles for all the smoke that was traveling across the state of Alaska.
Another thing, one of my biggest impressions, probably Alaska and Canada, were the views. The mountain ranges, the lakes, the oceans, the fjords,
everything.
The glaciers. And I think that's what sticks with me, especially some parts of the Yukon coming back from Alaska on the Alaska Highway was the Kluane Range. It's K-L-U-A-N-E range. It's just absolutely gorgeous along the Alaska Highway. When we were in Ontario, it didn't seem like you could travel a mile and you didn't see another lake that was just gorgeous. That made you want to stop, take the kayaks out, and kayak around for a few hours. But I think, that was one of my biggest impressions was, the scenery, the views.
I know. And of course, with the mountain ranges comes beautiful waterfalls. And so we got to see quite a few of those, because with the glaciers melting, there was always some kind of waterfall.
And like DeAnna said, a lot of the waterfalls and all the water features come from the glaciers. And we went and saw as many as we could. We went to Exit Glacier down by Seward, and in Valdez there's the Valdez Glacier that you don't really go to the glacier, but there's Valdez Glacier Lake with a lot of the ice flows in it. We were able to kayak around those. In Portage Glacier.
You can go to them, but you usually have to fly to those.
Yeah, a lot of that. We also, probably our favorite one was over into Hyder, Alaska. We went up to what's called the Salmon Glacier, and it's absolutely huge, and it was gorgeous. I think they said it's the 5th largest glacier in Canada.
Yeah. Another thing that we really enjoyed seeing more than anything were the large animals.
Another thing that was great and we loved in Alaska was the camping and campgrounds. And just to clarify some things, I want to tell you, our camping style is we have a 28-foot travel trailer, and so we can get into a lot more spots. Also, we tended to dry camp a lot, or boondock. There was a lot of national forest and a lot of provincial parks, that don't have any service. Before we left, I put a solar package on, so we never ran out of electricity with the long days. We always, and enough sun, we were fine. Probably at least 60% of our camping was without any hookups of any kind. Now, sometimes the parks would have a water pump, and on our complete trip, we never had a reservation more than 1 or 2 days out. We just kind of winged it and flew by the seat of our pants, and we were fine.
Yes, we did. We went fine.
If you have a large motorhome or fifth wheel and you need 50 amp service and full hookups all the time, you definitely might want to look into making reservations ahead of time.
Definitely. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the campgrounds that we stayed at. Our favorite was the National Forest Service campgrounds. We loved those because you really felt like you were actually camping. They tended to be a little bit cheaper. No, they did not have services like Bill alluded to earlier. You might have a water spigot somewhere. You might have pit toilets. Every once in a while you'd have a flush toilet somewhere. We usually used our camper. But one of the reasons we loved them is because they accepted our senior lifetime pass that we got from the Park Service when Bill turned 62. The other campgrounds that we liked to stay at were the provincial parks and the Yukon Territory government parks. Those were through Canada, and they were a lot like the national forest parks in Alaska. That's Canada's version of that. They tended to be a little less expensive, and they also tended to be a little bit more primitive, but still have some amenities and free firewood and stuff like that. So that was always fun. Private parks like your KOAs, we stayed at them twice, and that was usually so that we could get water in our tanks, do our laundry, and maybe dump our tanks and stuff so that we could be ready to go back into another forestry service or provincial park. We also stayed at Pollen Creek RV Park, which is owned by the city of Skagway. And we also stayed in Valdez, which was actually a boondocking spot that had literally nothing. It's also owned by the city, but it's off on their glacier lake.
Another thing we really enjoyed in Alaska was some of the excursion and activities we did. One was Denali for sure. The only bad part was the weather didn't cooperate, so that's, we definitely would love to go there again. But the sightseeing, and they had a dog sled demonstration, because Denali is the only national park with its own dog sled team, and that was neat. We got to do some fishing, especially at Quartz Creek. The salmon were running, and then the Dolly Varden and rainbow trout follow them up the creek. One of the only things we planned and reserved ahead was a salmon fishing trip where you took a float plane out of Soldotna, flew across the Cook Inlet, and went onto either a lake or we were on a river that flowed into a lake over on the other side. And we fished for coho salmon or silvers, and DeAnna was the winner and caught her limit of 3, and I caught 2, and the other guys caught 2, and it was a really great experience. And we did get out and do some hiking and things like that, and probably put a little video out later.
Oh, yes.
On some of the day hikes we did and
what we put in a
pack and all that. We also did some kayaking. Favorites were kayaking Moraine Lake near Lake Louise in Alberta. We kayaked on several glacier lakes at Portage and there in Valdez. And that was really fun.
So remember we said we were going to call it our Recon Mission. Well, we want to make sure that we kind of specifically tell you what are some of the things that we want to go back and do again. Because one, we just didn't feel like we were able to spend the time that we wanted to there, or it was just so much fun. We just literally want to do it again. One of those things is we want to go to Denali. We took the bus tour. It might have been raining that day, but we still thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. But we would like to go back when it's prettier weather, and maybe we'd be able to see more of the scenery.
And if we could camp in Denali, it would be good.
True. That's one place where we wish we had made reservations. Really wanted to stay inside the park, so next time we will.
Right.
So that was one of the spots. Skagway, by far my favorite city. I loved it. I loved watching the cruise ships come in. We were at Pollen Creek. Bedroom window opened up to the harbor there, and we could watch the cruise ships come in, and then we could watch them go out. The town itself was so quaint, and the people so friendly.
Yep.
I just really liked Skagway.
I did too. Just the atmosphere was nice there. The vibe we got.
The fishing trip, let's just face it, we are going to definitely do the fishing trip, and definitely do anything and everything over in Kenai. We didn't get to go out to as many places as we would have liked to have gone to, and definitely want to do a fly-in fishing trip again. Yep. We're still eating on the salmon that we got from that fishing trip, and we are loving it. Valdez. It's beautiful. The drive in, the drive out, both days when we went there, it was beautiful. We had a couple of rainy days, or at least one really bad rainy day while we were there.
Second day we were there, I think.
Yes, and we didn't stay there as long as we would have liked to have stayed there.
Things we missed that we would do if we go back. One is go to Haines. We didn't get it down to Haines, and we'd like to either drive down or take the ferry from Skagway across over. We didn't spend as much time around Whitehorse and on the Klondike. And that's where there was some Great Lakes for kayaking and the scenery. And supposedly a lot of good mountain biking around Whitehorse and some other things. I don't think we even spent a whole day. Basically, Whitehorse is where we got groceries, gas, and water, you know.
I'm thinking Homer.
Homer, that's the other one,
Kenai, like
we didn't get down there. So maybe maybe we could take a halibut fishing trip out of Homer or something like that and stuff. That was stuff we didn't get to do, but we tried to do a lot of it. So
that's true. But there are some places that I think we could agree on that we would not go back to. Like, for example, we would not go back to the Arctic Circle. We've done it. We've been there. We've done it. It was on Bill's list of something that he really wanted to do. And now that he's done it, it's not really something we would want to do. And we really didn't enjoy the city of Fairbanks that much. We just didn't get out and maybe do enough excursions or visit museums or stuff. So we didn't really give it a lot of a chance, really.
You know, I think it was one thing I don't plan on doing is rushing through a lot of things, maybe slowing the pace down a little the next time.
That's a big plan. It's not to be moving quite as often as we did. Sometimes we would be in a place for a day, sometimes 2 days. When we went to Quartz Creek and actually stayed 6 days, that was a luxury. Exception. It was very much the exception. Everything else was usually 1, 2, at tops 3 days, you know. So. Like we said, we're definitely going to go back. We're not sure when.
I'd go next year.
I know, but for maybe the summer of 2021 for sure.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. But until then, if you've missed any of our episodes and you need a little Alaska, Canada fix, be sure and check out our playlist of Alaska and Canada in our Living the Silver Life videos collection.
Till next season or our next trip, we'll talk to you later.
If we didn't answer a question that you have on Alaska or Canada, leave it in the comments below and we'll try to answer it for you.